If you'd like a deep dish sample of deep-seated hypocrisy, a quick visit to Chicago, supposed home of the deep dish pizza, might be just the thing for you. This time, the story on the menu is about government-run education and unions and taxation and double standards of a union head. And it offers us long-term lessons to apply to the entire framework of government-run schooling. Hi everyone, I'm Gardner Goldsmith for MRC-TV. You know, it's a perennial story, the seemingly eternal parade of politicians that new generations of hypocrites end up joining and marching along behind. They trail after their ideological forebears as they bang their proverbial drum for degenerate, unresponsive, tax-funded public schools on the federal, state, and local level. And then they imply that private schools are elitist and wrong, all while they either send their own children to private schools or as they neglect to mention that they themselves might have gone to private school. Yes, we've seen it so many times. And now, in beautiful, peaceful, pristine Chicago, the person at the very apex of the city's public teachers union is scrambling to deflect and gaslight after she was caught sending her son to an elite private school. If you're appropriately shocked, I know, stun me. Wait until you hear about her purported defense. Myriad Ilordi reports for the Daily Wire, quote, "The president of the Chicago Teachers Union, CTU, is defending her decision to send her son to a private school after facing backlash for the decision. CTU President Stacey Davis Gates is sending her freshman son to a Catholic school on the south side of Chicago." Of course, she didn't offer a justification concerning her own work. She didn't offer anything about her public notoriety in a political sphere being a possible liability for her son within the tax-funded cesspool, wherein maybe some teachers who might not like her stewardship of the union might possibly exact revenge through maltreatment and mistreatment of her child. Instead, she blamed, you got it, taxpayers. Specifically, she blamed those who favor, well, not real freedom, but the veneer of freedom in the form of vouchers handed by government to parents to introduce a small amount of so-called competition into the system. Indeed, Ms. Davis Gates implied that the problem isn't her own towering hypocrisy. It's the tiny bit of leeway that parents might have in school choice. Leeway that could see them direct kids and funds away from the worst schools where the parents know their children would be trapped otherwise. Quote, in her defense of the decision, Davis Gates criticized school choice, blaming such policies for the lack of resources at Chicago's public schools. But why would she worry about charter schools being a drain on the old and rotting core of the Chicago system? After all, in June, she helped end the Chicago voucher program, which actually might be part of the problem she's now trying to cover up. A problem that shows she wasn't exactly sincere when speaking up to end that voucher program. As Ilordi notes, quote, in June, the Illinois legislature opted not to renew the school voucher program.
I'm also a mother. My children go to the Chicago public schools. These are things that help to legitimize my space within the coalition.
In other words, in March, Davis Gates openly said that her children attend public schools, even going so far as to claim that such a family decision legitimizes her position within a coalition of people trying to end the vouchers. Now, the truth has emerged. Quote, the revelation of Davis Gates' decision to opt for private school sparked immediate backlash, with critics accusing her of hypocrisy. And she not only pushes the canard that public schools would perform better if only some of that stolen tax cash weren't turned into vouchers and directed by parents to other schools, a policy she helped end in June, she wants to now mix race into the gaslight concoction. Quote, "It was a very difficult decision for us because there is not a lot to offer black youth who are entering high school in Chicago," Davis Gates told WBEZ. Yes, and get this. In her implacable defense through attack, in her nauseating attempt to divert attention from reality, Davis Gates cites qualitative reasons for sending her offspring to private school. Reasons she seems blithely unaware could also enter the minds of less well-to-do taxpayers and parents/taxpayers who might want, but can't afford, to participate with private schools for similar reasons. Quote, "In many of our schools on the South Side and the West Side, the course offerings are very marginal and limited," she said. Then the other thing, and it was a very strong priority, was his ability to participate in co-curricular and extracurricular activities, which, quite frankly, don't exist in many of the schools, high schools in particular. Ms. Davis Gates has her hands full if she expects desperate parents and other taxpayers to forgive her haughty deprecations and deceptions as she attempts to deflect from her own double standards and to keep the terrible Chicago school system sucking up the earnest work of the citizens. If people really were free, they not only could cite her for her double standards, they could stop paying her fellow unionized teachers. But of course, unions in America have been given far too much slack and admiration. It's one thing for workers to form unions in nations where the government controls economic choice and limits the freedom to start businesses that aren't at the mercy of the government. Thus, when the Gdansk shipyard union Solidarność engaged in a work stoppage to protest the Soviet Polish government, people applauded. It was, of course, very appropriate for freedom backers to support that movement. But in the US, and in a state where the taxpayer is forced to fund a communist teaching system, the union is actually tied to and benefits from their connection to the government. The union isn't fighting against the government here. And of course, in the US, the teachers, they could enter private market practice if they want to. There is no USSR stopping them from doing their work in a free competitive sphere. Thus, we can see that it's the taxpayers who need to be freed here. And they are the very people who Ms. Davis Gates insults with her fatuous deceptions and her claims of uniqueness. Gee, it's a great microcosm to talk about freedom, to remember what education used to be like in the United States, and to spread the word about decentralization and market choice and offering people the freedom to retain the fruits of their labor, their own money. Very important things to remember. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please like us and please subscribe over on Rumble because they don't censor us there. And we'll see you on YouTube as well. Sometimes they censor us there. Give it the thumbs up. Share the videos as often as you can. We'll, of course, see you at MRC-TV.org. That's MRC-TV.org, where the whole team's work can be seen. And, of course, you can contribute while you're at MRC-TV.org. MRC-TV, the Media Research Center in its 36th year fighting left-wing bias. You can also find us on Facebook. You can also find us on Instagram and on TikTok and on Parler and on Twitter. On Gab, I'm at Gardner Goldsmith, and on Twitter, I'm at Gard Goldsmith. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. For MRC-TV, I'm Gardner Goldsmith.